Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thanks again so much for spending time with us. This is Holy Week, and I'd like to do a very different set of daily devotionals this week. I'd like to walk you through the events each day of that first Holy Week. We have finished Palm Sunday. The scriptures show us that in Matthew 21 and in Mark chapter 11, when Jesus finished, he went outside the city, climbed back up the Mount of Olives, went out to the city of Bethany, about 2-3 hour walk, and spent the night. Now, Monday morning, it says early in the morning, Matthew 21, while he was on his way back to the city, he went all the way out, a couple hours walk every night, comes back down the Mount of Olives, that road that we walk each time when we're in Israel, coming down from the Mount of Olives to the Garden of Gethsemane, comes right back down to the city. He was hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except the leaves. And then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." Now, the only thing that Mark adds to that is that it was not the season for figs. Now you say, well, Pastor, why did Jesus command the fig tree to die? If he had unrealistic expectations? Not really. If you've ever been around fig trees, you know that when you see the leaves, there will be little baby figs that you can still eat, little tiny fruit beginning already. This was a tree that had unnatural growth. It had leaves, it gave the appearance of life, but it did not bear any fruit. Now, brothers and sisters, this is the illustration I always use with people when it comes to receiving healing. And many of you may be sitting here right now in this Holy Week 2,000 years later, and you have cancer growing in your body. That's unnatural growth. Just like Jesus robbed the fig tree of its life, Jesus wants to rob that cancer of its life in your body today. Close every blood vessel going to it, close every nerve cell going to it, and let that thing die and be reabsorbed by your body. Jesus, the author of life, has the right to judge life as, no, this is not natural life, and he commands death on it. But a second thing that occurs, and these are strong things that occur on that first Monday. He's walking down and he curses the fig tree, and then he gets down into the temple area. He comes down, walks through the Kidron Valley, comes back up to the temple courts. He gave everybody a chance on Palm Sunday. They saw him walk around and look. This guy that cleansed the temple just a few years before, they're all holding their money. What's he going to do this time? He does nothing. He just walks around and looks. He shows mercy to them. But then Mark 11, beginning with verse 15, says, on reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. As he taught them, is not it written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. That's fascinating. You see, this whole week now is going to be Jesus, the Passover Lamb, presenting himself to be inspected by the people for his perfection. And so before he holds this great revival that we'll talk about another day this week, where every day he taught and he healed the sick and monstrous crowds in the temple courts, before he began to minister, he was a good spiritual janitor and cleaned the sin out and cleaned the corruption out before he took his seat as the true high priest and began to teach and minister to the people. Now sometimes, brothers and sisters, we have an unrealistic expectation. We have an unrealistic attitude toward Jesus because we think that, he just walked around and was sweet to everybody. Here he drives people out. Why? Because this affects ministry to people. He would not allow the corruption in his Father's house. Something to think about as we move into this Palm Sunday. Are there things in your life that need to be driven out? Are there things in your life that you've allowed to stay there, and now as the beginning of Holy Week starts, you need to drive those things out so that Jesus can minister to you?